Okay, I'm going to walk through the example in our lecture notes, which was this example. If you had a car loan for $18,000 at 4% interest for 5 years, what was going to be your total interest paid and your total in payments? So let's take a look at that. If you will set up your Excel spreadsheet, just like this, then you can use this same spreadsheet every time if you follow through this carefully. Then any other problems like this, you can just go in and change the number amounts. So I have it set up in months and years because some things are given in years, but everything we do will be monthly payments. So that's why I have these two columns. And then you'll always need your principal rate, your final balance, your number of periods that you're making payments for, and what your payment amount is. Over here on the left, I have what Excel calls those things. So we'll talk about those as we go. So our principal amount is $18,000 because that is our present value. In other words, what do we owe presently? And it's $18,000. It's also called your principal. Your rate is given as 4%. That's 4% interest for 5 years. So we put 4% here in years. And to make that into months, because everything in our amortization schedule is going to be in months, then I want you to come up here and click equal sign. That means we're going to do some type of formula. Click on this box to get that 4% in there, or you can type in E6 because it's in the E6 cell, and then click divided by 12. So 4% divided by 12 comes out to this decimal monthly. Okay, so we'll use that in our formula in a minute when we calculate. That's our rate, our interest rate. Then our final balance, well, we want that to be 0, folks. So I'm putting in a 0 there. Our number of periods, it tells us we're doing it for 5 years, so I'm putting that in the year column. But 5 years, go in this cell, click on your equal sign, come over here or put in E8 or just click on it, and then that is times 12. So 5 years in months is 60 months. And then the last thing we need to do is put in our payments. We need to calculate that. And fortunately, Excel has a thing to do that for us. So I'm going to come up here and click equal and put in PMT, and it pulls up the payment function. If you'll click on that, then you'll see we need to put in the rate, the number of periods, the previous value, the future value, and we don't have to put in type. So payment, and then I need the rate, so I'm coming up here to click on the monthly rate, click on that box, hit the comma. Now I need the number of periods. Our number of periods is right here. Click on that box and put in a comma. Then I need the present value. The present value is the 18,000. Click on that and put in a comma. And then the last thing is our future value, and we want our loan, obviously we want it down to 0, that we don't owe anything else. Click on that and then end your quote and hit enter. And there we have our monthly payments of $331.50. I want you to notice that it's in red. A couple things in parentheses, that means it's a negative. And that is correct because if it comes out of our pocket, if we are paying it, it's coming out of our pocket. I want you to think of that as a negative. If it's money being put in our pocket, it will be a positive. So this whole part right here is exactly what we needed to do to get our payment. Now, look at this. This is kind of cool. So let's say that car cost $26,000. All I have to do is change that, and it changes my rate for me. Let's say it was $26,000 car and we had to pay 6% interest. So if I change that, then my payments automatically change the way we have this set up. So you can use this for anything now related to for an amortization schedule. So I went back and put it at our 18,000 at 4% for 5 years. Now we got to figure out the interest, the payments, and what's happening monthly. So I have month, my monthly payment, what goes to principal, what goes to interest, and what our total balance is. So I'm going to start at month 0 because we're not paying yet, and my balance starts out at the 18,000. So I'm going to click equal and click on the 18,000 box there and hit enter because we want it to do that. So if I change this again to $100,000, it will automatically change down here. So you always want to get this set up where we can use it in the future. All right. The next month, then we'll go months 1 through 60 here. But let's finish out this first line because then I have a great trick to show you. Okay, so now let's do our payments. We already know what our payments are. They're right here. So I'm going to click the equal sign, and I'm going to click on this box, and I'm going to hit enter. Now there is one thing we want to do. In a minute, we're going to want things to change all the way down to the 60 months, but we don't want our payments to change because they're what we call fixed. That payment amount's never going to change. So the trick is you come up here and you put a $sign in front of the D and the 9, and you enter, and that way those $signs just mean this is fixed. It will never change through our whole problem here. We are making that payment for the 60 months. Okay, then the next thing I want to do is come over here and talk about what our interest is going to be. Our interest, so hit your equal sign, we're going to put a little formula there. Our interest is always going to be based on our balance times, so I'm hitting the asterisk, our interest rate. And our interest rate is right up here, remember, our monthly interest rate. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to hit enter. But the other thing, okay, a couple things happened here. It needs to be negative because that interest is coming out of our pocket. Now it's in the parentheses and it's red. And then the other thing is the interest never changes, right? It's this interest rate, remember, for the 60 months. So since that doesn't change and I want it to be fixed, then I'm putting $signs there. And I'll show you in a minute about what I mean with fixed, because it doesn't really change our amount, but we need it to be fixed for later. And then that means our principal is left to mess with, and our principal that we're paying, so we're paying interest, and our principal totals our whole payment. So that means our principal is always going to be equal to our payment minus our interest. And click enter. So there it has it for us. Our principal on this row is our principal is always going to be our payment minus our interest. Okay, so these are all negative because it all comes out of our pocket. These two numbers should always total our payment. That's how much goes towards the principal. That's how much we're paying in interest. And then we need to compute our new balance. Our new balance is going to be our last balance. So I'm going to put the equal sign here. So essentially it's the $18,000 minus what we paid towards the principal. So click here. All right, and then we hit enter. And if you'll notice, that went up because even though we think of it as it's our last balance minus that, since those are negative numbers, just go up here and change that to a plus. There we go. So we started with $18,000. We paid our first payment. We're $271 towards went the principal. 60 of it was interest. And then when we subtract off that $331.50, we come out to $17,728. Now this is the cool part. What I want you to do in this box right here is our next month is our last month plus 1. So I'm going to go equal last month plus 1. So that will just keep our months going down by ones. Now watch this. This is the cool part. Take this. Set your cursor down and drag that across and let go of it. Okay, so those should be highlighted. And then move your X up here till it becomes solid. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pull this down because remember we want 60 months worth. So I think that should get us down. We started at 17, so that should get us down to about the 77 mark. So I'm going to go down, and when I say 77, it's 77th row. And check that out. Look what it did. So this is called an amortization schedule till we get down to, guess what? We had $18,000 we had to pay, and what should we get down to? Owing nothing. All right. So that is how you work an amortization schedule. But there's a couple more questions here. They want to know what's our total interest and what's our total payments. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to make a total interest. This is our interest column. So I'm going to put equal. And I want to tell it to sum up So I'm telling it to sum from here, colon, to here. And that tells it to sum all of those from F18 to F77. You could just put in F18 to F77 if you want and end your parenthesis and hit enter. That is my total that I paid in interest. So that's a lot of interest to pay. We paid almost $2,000 just in interest. Well, what if I want to total up my principal? What should that total? Everybody should know what that should total, right? So I'm going to click our total towards the principal should come out to the $18,000. So let's check that. I'm going to click equal, sum up from here, colon, to here. End parenthesis, enter. There's our $18,000. And so now we pay $18,000 for the principal. We paid almost $2,000 in interest. So what did we pay total for that vehicle that cost $18,000? And you can just do that right here. We can click equal and tell it to sum up our payment column. Because remember, the payment is the interest plus the principal. So here, colon. So that says sum up everything from D18 to D77 in parentheses, blah. All right, so the $18,000 car, that much is interest. That is how much we paid total for that car at the end of the day. So that was the question it asked. What's your total interest? What are your total payments? What was your total principal? That is how you can do all that. Then the next question says, what if you pay a little extra on each payment and go up to the next $50 increment? Okay, so if I go up to the next $50 increment, that would mean I would want to change my payments to $350. So I'm paying a little bit extra every month. How much extra am I paying? I'm paying, let's see, $330, $150 up to $350. Let's see how much extra that is. You can just grab it. Okay, that's $18.50 extra a month. So I'm just going to come here and take my payments and add on that I want to pay $18.50 extra every month, because that should cut down on the interest that I pay. So I'm going to enter there. Oh, remember, it needs to be a minus because that's already a negative number. So now it's the $350 a month. And if I'm paying $350 a month, look what happened. This automatically changed. Okay, so my payments automatically changed. My interest, principal, and payment, everything ended up changing. And look what I did. I cut off, let's see, at the end of the 56 month, I only owe $178.09 now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of these rows for a minute. And I need to, I still have to pay this $178.09 that's left. So let's throw that up here under the principal, right? Because that would be principal with no interest. So let's do, we'll go get it from there. So, well, we can just put it in here. So equal negative 178.09. And that gets us, here's our $18,000. Now we only paid $1,777.94 interest, so that means our total payments went down as well. So that is a pretty cool way to do that. And then the last question says, what if you go up to the next $100 increment in your payment? So that would go from $350, so that would get me up to $400. So let's go over here and change this one to $400. So I need to take off another $50. And there's my $400 in payments. Here's my $400 in payments. Look, guys, that cut off. If we go here, because that's our last payment. See how I know there's the positive, there's the negative. So then if we're going here, we're paying too much. So I'm going to get rid of these.